I think I've got to go to Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, I was, I think, along with millions of other British citizens, shocked to read the expose in the Times newspaper that Britain has become the Western capital for the use of sharia courts.
Wow.
And I think that I'd like to ask the Leader if we could have a debate on this issue in the new year, because in my view, the use of sharia courts to make unofficial rulings about marriages, divorces and family life have no place in the United Kingdom.
What's in the cupboard?
Can I welcome him to his place? Of course, I'm sure his leader is somewhere else far more important, either in the studios or abroad or somewhere else, getting an airing. But I hear what he has to say, and I'm sure we would all agree that the courts in this country that are recognised are the UK and British and English courts, and that's absolutely right.
During a recent parliamentary session, Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK, raised a significant concern about the reported proliferation of Sharia courts in the United Kingdom, describing Britain as the Western capital for such practices. Tice cited an expose in The Times that highlighted the use of Sharia courts to make unofficial rulings on matters such as marriages, divorces, and family disputes, arguing that such systems have no place in the UK. In response, Lucy Powell acknowledged the issue, but dismissed Tice's remarks with a pointed comment about his party leader's absence. While Powell reiterated that only UK and British courts are recognized, her response lacked the gravity the topic demands, leaving unanswered questions about the legal, cultural, and societal implications of parallel justice systems operating within the country. The rise of unofficial Sharia courts in the UK carries significant risks. First, it undermines the principle of a single, unified legal system that upholds the rights and protections guaranteed by British law. Allowing unofficial courts to operate creates a two-tier justice system, where some individuals, particularly women, may face rulings that conflict with UK laws on equality and human rights. Cases have already emerged where women were pressured to accept unfair divorce settlements or were denied custody rights, outcomes that would be considered discriminatory under British law. Second, the existence of such courts raises broader concerns about social cohesion and integration. Parallel legal systems can deepen divisions within communities, fostering an us versus them mentality and weakening the shared values that bind a diverse society together. This risks marginalizing vulnerable groups and creating enclaves where British law is effectively sidelined in favor of traditional or religious norms, often to the detriment of those who lack the resources or knowledge to seek recourse through formal legal channels. Furthermore, there is a risk of normalizing practices that could exploit legal loopholes. For instance, while Sharia courts may present themselves as voluntary mediators, the social and cultural pressures within certain communities often make participation far from voluntary. This dynamic disproportionately impacts women and other vulnerable groups, who may feel compelled to comply with rulings that are neither fair nor legally binding. The government's failure to address this issue head-on sends a troubling message about the protection of individual rights within the UK. Tice's call for a parliamentary debate is not only reasonable, but necessary. The government must explore legislative measures to ensure that all legal matters are handled exclusively within the UK's judicial framework, leaving no room for unofficial systems that undermine the rule of law. Ignoring the issue, or trivializing it as Powell seemed to do, risks further eroding public trust in the country's institutions. A robust and unified response is essential to reaffirm the principle that no parallel legal system can operate in Britain, protecting the rights of all citizens and preserving the integrity of the nation's legal framework.
Richard Holden.
Much indeed, Mr. Speaker. And I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to prohibit the marriage of first cousins Today, according to the Oxford Journal of Law and Religion, cousin marriage is practiced by around 10% of the world and is most prevalent in the Middle East, West Asia and North Africa. However, the practice varies enormously within countries, by regional culture too, reaching, and in its highest areas, it does reach over 8% in parts of rural Pakistan. In contrast, in China and Western countries, it is less than 1%. The science, Mr. Speaker, is clear. First cousin marriages should be banned on the basis of health risk alone.
So it is important to recognise, for many people, this is a highly sensitive issue, and in discussing it, we should try to step into the shoes of those who perhaps are not from the same culture as ours, to better understand why the practice continues to be so widespread. The reason the practice is so common is that ordinary people see family intermarriage overall as something that is very positive, something that helps build family bonds and helps put families on a more secure financial foothold. Instead of stigmatizing those who are in cousin marriages or those inclined to be, a much more positive approach would be to facilitate advanced genetic test screening for prospective married couples. I would therefore urge the House to vote against this motion and to find a more positive approach to addressing the issues that are caused by first cousin marriages, including the health risks and the consequences of modern conflicts and displacement of population around the world. Thank you.
The debate surrounding first cousin marriages, as presented by Richard Holden and Iqbal Muhammad, encapsulates a clash between cultural practices and public health concerns. Richard Holden, advocating for a bill to prohibit first cousin marriages, frames his argument around scientific evidence, highlighting the increased health risks associated with such unions. Citing data from the Oxford Journal of Law and Religion, Holden emphasizes that while cousin marriage is prevalent in certain regions, such as the Middle East and parts of Asia, it is far less common in Western countries. He asserts that the practice, which can lead to higher rates of genetic disorders due to the limited gene pool, poses a significant public health concern that justifies legislative intervention. For Holden, the ban is a necessary step to protect future generations from avoidable health complications. In contrast, Iqbal Muhammad approaches the issue from a cultural and empathetic perspective, arguing against a blanket prohibition. He underscores the sensitivity of the topic and the importance of understanding the cultural and socio-economic factors that make cousin marriages prevalent in certain communities. For many families, Muhammad explains, cousin marriages are seen as a way to strengthen familial bonds and ensure financial security. Rather than stigmatizing these communities or imposing outright bans, Muhammad advocates for a more constructive approach, such as providing advanced genetic screening for prospective couples. This, he argues, would address the health risks associated with cousin marriages while respecting cultural traditions and avoiding alienation of communities. The tension between these viewpoints raises broader questions about how government should navigate the intersection of public health policy and cultural practices. On one hand, Holden's emphasis on science and the need to mitigate health risks is compelling, particularly in light of the significant burden genetic disorders can place on healthcare systems and families. On the other hand, Muhammad's call for cultural sensitivity and a focus on education and prevention rather than prohibition highlights the risks of alienating communities by disregarding deeply rooted traditions. His proposal for genetic testing offers a middle ground, balancing the need for public health interventions with respect for cultural autonomy. However, both positions reveal underlying challenges. A legislative ban, while addressing health concerns, risks being perceived as discriminatory or overly paternalistic, particularly if it disproportionately targets specific ethnic or cultural groups. Conversely, Relying solely on education and voluntary genetic testing may not be sufficient to prevent the health risks associated with cousin marriages, especially in communities where such practices are deeply entrenched and access to healthcare resources may be limited. Thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts or opinions, feel free to share them in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more updates, and join us on Telegram for exclusive content and discussions. Your support means a lot.